The owners of miniature Japanese vehicles are looking to a lawyer now for help. In February, we told you state lawmakers were considering a proposal to legalize miniature K cars.
The proposal failed, but the K car drivers say they're still fighting.
Across 12 states, compact trucks like the Honda Acty are being banned from the roads. To most people, they look like harmless little boxes, but to regulators and lobbyists, they're a threat, an affordable, efficient, foreign-made solution that works a little too well. From farmers in Ohio to baristas in Oregon, small business owners have quietly built their livelihoods around these vehicles. They park easier, cost less, and sip fuel instead of guzzling it. So why are lawmakers racing to shut them down? What loophole are they using? Who's funding the crackdown? And what could this mean for the future of affordable transport in America? By the end, you'll know exactly how deep this goes, and we will reveal the one manufacturer quietly pulling strings to keep these trucks off US streets for good. When small became the new big, the numbers told the story of a quiet revolution. 7,594 K trucks were imported into America last year alone, joining an estimated 45,000 low-speed vehicles already on American roads. These were not toys or novelties. They were serious work vehicles that cost under $10,000, a fraction of the $70,000 price tag on a new full-size pickup. What made these trucks special was not just their size or price. The Japanese K-Class represented decades of engineering focused on efficiency rather than excess. Every component was optimized for urban and agricultural use, creating vehicles that excelled in tight spaces while consuming minimal fuel. The cab-forward design maximized cargo space while minimizing the vehicle's footprint, a concept that seemed almost foreign in an America obsessed with bigger trucks. The real appeal went deeper than mere practicality. These trucks represented choice in a market increasingly dominated by massive vehicles that many Americans neither needed nor wanted. They offered an alternative to the arms race of automotive sizing that had made parking a challenge and left many drivers feeling like they were piloting a ship through city streets. As these trucks gained traction, one obscure exemption from the 1980s was quietly unlocking the floodgates. The 25-year rule revolution asks, what if America's oldest protectionist law accidentally created the perfect loophole? The Imported Vehicle Safety Compliance Act of 1988 was never meant to help foreign cars enter America. Quite the opposite, it was designed to keep them out. The law required all imported vehicles to meet stringent federal motor vehicle safety standards, a process so expensive and complex that it effectively banned most foreign cars from American roads. Raymond Moy understood the 25-year rule better than most. A passionate collector of unique Japanese vehicles, he had built his hobby around the magical exemption that transformed forbidden fruit into legal imports. Once a vehicle reached 25 years, old federal law classified it as a classic, exempt from the modern safety and emission standards that blocked newer imports. The rule had created an entire subculture of enthusiasts waiting for their dream cars to age into legality. Japanese sports cars, European exotics, and yes, practical K-trucks that had been impossible to import, new suddenly became available to American buyers. Import companies sprouted up to serve this growing market, bringing container loads of aged vehicles across the Pacific. What lawmakers in 1988 never anticipated was how this exemption would evolve. What began as a collector's back door was about to be exploited for something far more disruptive and far more practical. This regulatory gap was about to become the foundation of a transportation revolution. Alex Perkins had grown tired of wrestling with the dying Ford Ranger that Precision Motorworks used for dump runs and parts delivery. The aging pickup was unreliable, thirsty for fuel, and increasingly expensive to maintain. When the shop's owner suggested replacing it with a Honda Acty truck in 2020, Perkins was skeptical. 6 months later, he was a convert. The compact truck handled everything the Ranger had done, only better. Its abundant tie-down points made securing loads simple and secure. The cab-forward design provided excellent visibility, eliminating the blind spots that plagued larger trucks. Most importantly, the simple mechanical systems made maintenance straightforward and affordable. When you want to park the Suburban, Perkins observed, pointing to a customer's massive Chevrolet nearby, it is, where do I put the anchor? The visibility is poor. With this, I park within an inch of where I want to be. The practical advantages extended beyond ease of use. Fuel costs dropped dramatically compared to the old Ranger. Insurance was cheaper. Parts were readily available and reasonably priced. The truck's 1/500 lb curb weight meant it did not require commercial licensing or expensive permits that heavier vehicles demanded. Across America, similar stories were playing out, and as the success stories multiplied, the backlash was already gathering momentum in legislative offices across the country. But we didn't just collect stories. We verified registrations, dug through vehicle code, and followed the policy trail across 12 states. Now you see how one loophole turned into a nationwide movement, until lawmakers started pushing back. If this saved you hours of research, hit subscribe. We'll keep digging so you don't have to. These individual success stories were starting to coalesce into something larger. When Texas began cracking down on K-truck registrations, enthusiasts did not just complain, they organized. The Lone Star K-advocacy group formed around a simple premise. If these vehicles were legal under federal law, individual states should not be able to arbitrarily ban them. What started as frustrated conversations on social media evolved into sophisticated political advocacy. The group's strategy was refreshingly direct. Instead of hiring expensive lobbyists or launching slick advertising campaigns, they picked up their phones and started calling representatives. Over the course of their campaign, Lone Star K members made 180 individual contacts with Texas lawmakers, sharing personal stories and practical arguments for K-truck legality. McChristian, one of the group's leaders, understood that successful advocacy required more than emotional appeals. The grassroots approach was spreading beyond Texas. Facebook groups in affected states swelled with members sharing information and coordinating responses. Online petitions gathered thousands of signatures from truck owners and supporters. Forums became command centers for legal research and political strategy. What made the movement particularly powerful was its authenticity. These were not astroturfed campaigns funded by corporate interests, but genuine expressions of frustration from people whose livelihoods depended on practical transportation. In conference rooms far from these communities, different conversations were happening. The organization Reshaping American Roads was not a government agency. It was something far more powerful. Most Americans had never heard of the American Association of Motor Vehicle Administrators, AMVA, and that was exactly how they liked it. Operating from a nondescript office building in Arlington, Virginia, AMVA wielded influence that would make seasoned lobbyists envious. Unlike elected officials who faced voters every few years or appointed administrators who served at political pleasure, AMVA's power derived from something more subtle and enduring: bureaucratic expertise. The organization's membership read like a who's who of automotive regulation. Department of Motor Vehicles administrators from all 50 states, plus Washington, District of Columbia, Canada, Mexico, and the Virgin Islands gathered regularly to share best practices and coordinate policies. What happened in these closed-door meetings rippled across North America, affecting millions of drivers who remained blissfully unaware of the organization's existence. AMVA's genius lay in its unofficial status as a 501c3 nonprofit. It operated beyond the public scrutiny that constrained government agencies. No Freedom of Information Act requests, no congressional oversight hearings, no pesky journalists demanding transparency. The summer of 2021 marked a turning point in AAMVA's approach to imported vehicles. What made the document particularly insidious was its veneer of safety concern. Their next move would turn those recommendations into real-world bans, and Maine would be their testing ground. This bureaucratic framework would soon be tested in New England. Maine residents went to bed with legal trucks and woke up as criminals. Nikki Betchelder had always taken pride in running an efficient motor vehicle bureau. As registration section supervisor, she believed in following rules and maintaining standards. When AMVA's best practices document crossed her desk in 2021, it provided the authority she needed to address what she saw as a growing problem: foreign vehicles that did not belong on American roads. The transformation happened with bureaucratic swiftness. Maine's definition of off-road vehicle suddenly expanded to encompass any vehicle not built to federal motor vehicle safety standards. The change was not announced with fanfare or legislative debate. It simply appeared in updated administrative guidance distributed to registration offices across the state. The revocation letters arrived without warning. State officials informed owners that their registrations were being canceled because their vehicles were deemed unsafe and unfit for highway use. What made Maine's approach particularly harsh was its retroactive nature. Unlike other states that simply stopped issuing new registrations, Maine actively hunted down existing owners and revoked their plates. Families who had invested thousands of dollars in reliable transportation suddenly found themselves with expensive paperweights that could not legally leave their driveways. Maine's enforcement revealed the arbitrary nature of vehicle safety regulations. The state continued to register antique vehicles from the 1960s and 70s that lacked basic safety features like seat belts or crumple zones. A 1965 Ford pickup with no safety equipment remained perfectly legal, while a 1998 Mitsubishi Delica with modern safety features was banned. This contradiction didn't go unnoticed. Rhode Island would take it even further, proving just how far states could go without rewriting a single law. Maine's aggressive tactics provided a blueprint that other states would eagerly adopt. Walter Craddock understood the power of administrative interpretation. As Rhode Island's Division of Motor Vehicles Administrator and an AAMVA board member, he had helped craft the best practices document that was now reshaping automotive policy across America. Implementing those recommendations in his own state would demonstrate their effectiveness and encourage broader adoption. Rhode Island's approach refined Maine's tactics. Rather than changing laws, the state simply reinterpreted existing statutes to achieve the desired result. General Law 31-3-5 allowed registration denial for vehicles deemed mechanically unfit or unsafe for highways. By adopting AMVA's expansive definition of unsafe vehicles, Rhode Island could ban K-trucks without legislative action. Chuck Hodzinski discovered the new policy when he received 2 letters on the same day. One targeted his Honda Acty, the other his Daihatsu Mira TRXX Avanzato. The timing suggested coordination beyond state boundaries. Rhode Island's implementation followed Maine's example closely, using similar language and enforcement methods. Pennsylvania began reporting registration difficulties around the same time, suggesting a coordinated rollout of AAMVA's recommendations across multiple states. Social media became a lifeline for affected owners. Facebook groups and online forums allowed people to share experiences and coordinate responses. The ripple effect was building fast, and one overlooked document would tie it all together. These individual state actions were building towards something larger and more coordinated. The document that changed everything was buried on page 47 of a nonprofit's website. The Massachusetts Registry of Motor Vehicles had always prided itself on following federal guidance. When the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration's position on mini truck safety appeared in AAMVA documentation, registry officials saw clear direction for addressing what they viewed as a growing compliance problem. The July training document distributed to Massachusetts RMV offices revealed the scope of the planned crackdown. Unlike previous states that had targeted specific vehicle types, Massachusetts prepared a comprehensive list that included virtually every popular Japanese import: Honda Acty trucks and vans, Daihatsu He-Jets, Suzuki Carries, Mitsubishi Minis. The list read like a catalog of practical imported transportation. Matt Isgro and Mason Min found themselves at the center of the resistance when their Suzuki Carry registrations were threatened. The Facebook advocacy group that formed around the Massachusetts ban grew to over 900 members within weeks. The rapid growth demonstrated the breadth of impact and the depth of frustration with arbitrary enforcement. Massachusetts Department of Transportation board meetings became forums for public testimony as affected owners demanded explanations for the sudden policy change. The reversal, when it came on September 18th, demonstrated the power of organized public pressure on administrative decisions. The registry's announcement that it would allow K-truck registrations while conducting further safety studies represented a rare bureaucratic retreat in the face of public opposition. The Massachusetts victory was temporary, but it proved something crucial about the nature of this bureaucratic war. Temporary or not, it set the stage for a national reckoning over how these decisions were being made and who they really served. The safety test everyone cited had a fatal flaw. It compared apples to freight trains. The Insurance Institute for Highway Safety's 2008 crash test became the smoking gun that opponents used to justify K-truck bans across America. The dramatic footage showed a Tiger Star mini truck crumpling like paper when it collided with a Ford Ranger, creating visceral imagery that seemed to prove these vehicles were death traps on wheels. What the footage did not reveal was the test's fundamental dishonesty. The Tiger Star entered the collision at 25 mph while the Ranger struck at 35 mph. This speed differential meant the relative impact was 60 mph, equivalent to hitting a brick wall at highway speeds. No vehicle weighing 500 LEB could survive such an encounter, regardless of its safety engineering. The weight disparity made the comparison even more meaningless. The Tiger Star's 1/500 lb mass faced the Ranger's 4,000 lb bulk, creating a physics problem that had nothing to do with vehicle design and everything to do with basic momentum equations. More troubling was what the test ignored. The Tiger Star used in the demonstration was not even a true K truck. It was an American-assembled vehicle using K-sized dimensions, but different construction methods. What made the deception particularly effective was its emotional impact. Watching the tiny truck disintegrate created a visceral reaction that overwhelmed rational analysis. The dramatic footage became a powerful tool for justifying bans, even though the test conditions bore little resemblance to real-world K-truck operations. Meanwhile, the deadliest vehicles on American roads remained completely legal, and this selective focus on crash test footage was obscuring a far more deadly reality happening on American streets, which is more dangerous to a pedestrian, a 1,500 lb K truck, or a 7,000 lb electric sport utility vehicle. The question exposed the fundamental contradiction at the heart of American vehicle safety policy. While regulators obsessed over protecting K-truck occupants in hypothetical crashes, they ignored the mounting evidence that larger vehicles posed exponentially greater risks to everyone outside them. National Highway Traffic Safety Administration data revealed the deadly trend. Pedestrian fatalities had increased 46% between 2009 and 2018, with sport utility vehicles and trucks responsible for a disproportionate share of deaths. The physics were unavoidable. When a 7,000 lb electric truck struck a pedestrian, the massive weight and high front end created forces that human bodies simply could not survive. The irony was stark. Regulators were banning the vehicles that posed the least risk to vulnerable road users while celebrating the growth of vehicle categories that killed pedestrians at record rates. Environmental justice advocates noted another disturbing pattern. Pedestrian fatalities disproportionately affected low-income communities and communities of color, the same populations that benefited most from affordable transportation alternatives, like K-trucks. Children faced particular risks from oversized vehicles. The high front ends of modern trucks and sport utility vehicles created massive blind spots that made it impossible for drivers to see small pedestrians directly in front of their vehicles. Some elementary schools started requesting that parents driving large vehicles use alternative pickup arrangements to reduce the risk of accidents in school zones. In Japan, researchers had been studying this question and reaching very different conclusions. The contradiction between American fears and international evidence was about to become impossible to ignore. The country that created K-trucks had 30 years of real-world safety data, and it told a different story. The Institute for Traffic Accident Research and Data Analysis in Japan had been collecting comprehensive crash data since 1993. Their database included detailed information about 137,900 drivers involved in frontal collisions, providing the largest real-world safety comparison between K-cars and standard vehicles ever assembled. The results challenged every assumption underlying American K-truck bans. When researchers compared injury severity scores between K-car drivers and standard vehicle drivers in similar crashes, they found virtually no difference in outcomes after controlling for seatbelt use, airbag deployment, and crash severity. The tiny vehicles provided equivalent protection to their larger counterparts. The Japanese safety philosophy differed fundamentally from American approaches. Rather than maximizing crash survival through vehicle mass, Japanese engineers focused on crash avoidance and injury mitigation. This approach led to vehicles with excellent visibility, responsive handling, and predictable behavior that helped drivers avoid accidents altogether. Despite having millions of K vehicles on their roads, Japan's traffic fatality rates were among the lowest in the developed world. The research revealed another crucial finding. Modern K vehicles included sophisticated safety systems that American regulators seemed unaware of. Airbags became standard in 1999, followed by electronic stability control and advanced seatbelt systems. The international consensus on K vehicle safety made American bans seem increasingly isolated and irrational. The data showed something no one in America wanted to admit. Behind the safety rhetoric lay a truth that would reshape everything people thought they knew about vehicle regulation. The safety argument was not about protecting people, it was about protecting profits. The timing of the K-truck crackdown revealed its true motivation. As American pickup truck prices soared past $70,000, affordable alternatives threatened the profit margins that sustained the domestic automotive industry. The numbers told the story of a market deliberately distorted by regulatory capture. Average new vehicle prices had increased faster than inflation, pricing millions of Americans out of reliable transportation. K-trucks offered an escape from this inflationary spiral. At $5,000 to $10,000 for a reliable example, they provided transportation that cost less than a single year's payment on a new American pickup. The regulatory barriers protecting domestic manufacturers from small vehicle competition had deep historical roots. The chicken tax, implemented in 1964, imposed a 25% tariff on imported light trucks. The 25-year import rule created the only legal pathway around these barriers, explaining the fierce resistance to K-truck imports. Every affordable imported truck represented lost revenue for domestic manufacturers who had bet their futures on high-margin, large vehicles. Small business owners understood the economic reality better than policymakers. A landscaping company could operate 5 K-trucks for the purchase price of one new American pickup, dramatically improving operational efficiency while reducing capital costs. The regulatory environment that protected domestic manufacturers created competitive disadvantages for every other sector of the economy. The real battle was just beginning, and it would be fought in the most unexpected place. The state known for big trucks was about to become the tiny truck capital of America. Texas had always celebrated automotive freedom. When the Texas Department of Motor Vehicles began rejecting K-truck registrations in 2021, it seemed like just another bureaucratic adjustment. What happened next would prove that grassroots democracy could still triumph over administrative overreach. McChristian and the Lone Star K advocacy group understood that winning in Texas required more than emotional appeals. It demanded political sophistication. Their strategy combined personal storytelling with hard data, economic arguments with constitutional principles. The group's phone campaign was methodical and relentless. 180 individual contacts with Texas. Lawmakers meant that virtually every representative heard directly from constituents who relied on these vehicles for their livelihoods. Small business owners shared stories of operational efficiency gains from using appropriately sized vehicles. Rural mail carriers explained how K-trucks navigated narrow country roads more safely than full-size vehicles. The economic arguments proved particularly compelling in business-friendly Texas. Legislators understood that forcing small businesses to purchase $70,000 vehicles instead of $10,000 alternatives imposed unnecessary costs that reduced competitiveness. Senate Bill 1816 emerged from this advocacy effort, representing a rare legislative victory for common sense over bureaucratic inertia. The April 4, 2024 policy reversal demonstrated that organized citizens could successfully challenge bureaucratic overreach. The Texas model spread rapidly as advocacy groups in other states adopted similar strategies. Across the country, other battles were heating up. The political sophistication that worked in Texas was about to face its biggest test in New England. The Massachusetts Registry of Motor Vehicles had underestimated the political sophistication of the community they were targeting. When officials announced their comprehensive ban on Japanese imports in June 2024, they expected the usual bureaucratic acquiescence. Instead, they triggered a resistance movement that would become a model for citizen advocacy across the country. Matt Isgro and Mason Min transformed personal frustration into collective action with remarkable speed. Their Suzuki Carry trucks were not exotic toys, but essential business tools, and the threatened registrations represented economic attacks on their livelihoods. The Facebook group that coalesced around the Massachusetts ban grew to over 900 members within weeks, demonstrating both the breadth of impact and the depth of community anger. Raymond Moy's advocacy proved particularly effective because of his technical expertise and media savvy. The Massachusetts Department of Transportation board meetings, where citizens testified, became forums for democratic participation that reminded officials of their public accountability. The testimony revealed patterns of arbitrary enforcement that undermined official claims about safety concerns. The September 18th reversal came after sustained pressure that demonstrated the political costs of regulatory overreach. The registry's announcement that it would allow K-truck registrations while conducting additional safety studies represented a face-saving retreat that acknowledged the power of organized citizen resistance. The Massachusetts victory was temporary, but it proved something crucial about the power of coordinated resistance. With them on the scoreboard, the fight shifted into something far larger than state borders. What began as a patchwork of obscure state restrictions has now ignited something far greater, a national confrontation over who controls the future of American mobility. The fight over K-trucks, compact, efficient, and undeniably useful, has evolved into a broader call for transportation freedom. Citizens once blindsided by confusing bans are now mobilizing, realizing that what happened to these small trucks could just as easily happen to any vehicle that challenges entrenched interests or defies outdated bureaucratic norms. Networks of resistance have begun forming across the country, fueled not by any one party or ideology, but by a shared conviction that practicality, affordability, and personal freedom should not be illegal. Online forums turned into legal research. Hubs, advocacy groups on opposite sides of the political spectrum, libertarians, environmentalists, small business owners, found common ground. Together, they're questioning the unchecked power of regulatory agencies and demanding answers. If these trucks meet federal standards, how can they be banned at the state level? And across the globe, countries are embracing smaller, cleaner vehicles while American policy clings to oversized, outdated machines. This isn't just about K-trucks anymore. It's about the freedom to drive something different. Are we witnessing the start of a true transportation rights movement or just a flash in the pan? Will regulators back down or will courts step in? Let us know where you stand. Is your right to choose your vehicle fading away? Drop your thoughts in the comments and thank you for watching.